Hello, 7th graders. Welcome back to our virtual instruction. I am teacher Wilma G. Kilosing, your virtual teacher for this week. I am here to guide you in answering your activity sheets for week 4. Before we start, I want you to get your activity sheets and open it on page 12 to 13. Our lesson for this week is all about properties on the operations of integers. And our most essential learning competency is illustrates the different properties of operations on the set of integers. For this week, you will learn more about the properties on the operations of integers. We have closure property, commutative property, associative property, distributive property, identity property, and inverse property. So let's have closure property. So under closure property, we have if A and B are in S, then A plus B, A minus B, and A times B is in S. So ang operation yan is closed under the operation we have used. For example, we have 2 plus 3 equals 5, 7 minus 3 equals 4, negative 2 times 5 is equal to negative 10. As you can see, I use a dot to represent the operation of multiplication. Na-discuss na yan ni Sir Rinaldo Millar sa inyo. Okay, so let's have commutative property. For example, we have this picture. Okay, what have you noticed about the picture? So, may nabago ba? Ano ang nabago? Tama, nabago ang kanilang order. So, if we are going to represent this picture as A and this picture as B, then we're going to have an equation A plus B equals B plus A. So, this is an example of commutative property through pictures. So, ano nga ba ang commutative property? So, commutative property says that changing the order of two numbers that are either being added or multiplied does not change the value. For example, we have 2 plus 3 equals 3 plus 2. So, ano ba ang 2 plus 3? Diba 5? Abutin naman sa kabila. Ano ang 3 plus 2? Diba 5 din? So, magkapalit man yung pwesto nila or magkapalit man yung order ng number ng pinag-a-add natin, the value is still the same. Wala pong nabago. Another example. So, we have 25 plus 5 equals 5 plus 25. 25 plus 5 is 30. 5 plus 25 is also 30. How about in multiplication? So, let's have negative 2 times negative 5 equals negative 5 times negative 2. So, from here, I use a parenthesis to represent multiplication. So, what is negative 2 times negative 5? We have 10. Negative 5 times negative 2 is also 10. Last example, we have 10 times 5 equals 5 times 10. So, 10 times 5 is 50. 5 times 10 is 50. So, that is an example of commutative property. Okay, we go to the next property, that is associative property. So for associative property, we have this picture. Okay, so we have here three objects representing numbers. So, for example, we're going to represent these objects as A, B, and C. So, what have you noticed about the pictures? Yung nasa taas at yung nasa baba. So, tama. Mayroong parentheses. So, yung parentheses dyan, meaning to say is may grouping tayo ng mga objects. So, dito, ang nag-group is the iPad and tablet. Dito naman, sa pangalawang pictures, you have, ang nag-group naman is the iPad and the laptop. So, if we are going to make an equation, we're going to have the quantity A plus B plus C and A plus the quantity B plus C. So, ano kaya ang ibig sabihin nun? May bababago ba? May nagbago ba? So, tignan natin. So, associative property states that changing the grouping of numbers that are either being added or multiplied does not change its value. The number inside the parentheses means the values should be added or multiplied first. So, for example, we have the quantity 2 plus 6 plus 3 equals 2 plus 6, the quantity 6 plus 3. So, from here, so pag pinorform po natin yung operation dito, we're going to add first the numbers inside the parentheses. So, 2 plus 6 is 8, plus 3 is 11. So, let's have this on the right side of the equation. So, you have 2 plus the quantity 6 plus 3. So, 6 plus 3 is 9. Plus 2 is 11. So, magpalit man yung grouping ng numbers natin, hindi nabago ang result. So, for example, another example, you have 9 plus the quantity 8 plus 2 equals the quantity 9 plus 8 plus 2. So, again, we're going to perform the operation inside the parentheses first. So, 8 plus 2 is 10, plus 9 is 19. So, dito naman sa right side, you have 9 plus 8 is 17, plus 2 is 19. So, walang nabago, the same result. How about in multiplication? So, let's have 3 times the quantity 5 times 6 equals 3 times 5 or the quantity 3 times 5 times 6. So, let's do the operation. So, 5 times 6 is 30. Times 3 is 90. So, dito naman sa kabila, 3 times 5 is 15. Times 6 is also 90. So, nagbago man yung grouping, the same result pa rin. So, let's have last example. So, we have the quantity negative 8 times 3 times 2 equals negative 8 times the quantity 3 times 2. So, let's perform the operation. So, negative 8 times 3 is 24. Times 2 is negative 48. Next, you have 3 times 2 is 6 times negative 8. So, since they are unlike signs, so you have negative 48, which is the same as the result in the left side of our equation. Now, we go to distributive property. So, in distributive property, it states that when two numbers have been added or subtracted and then multiplied by a factor, the result will be the same when each number is multiplied by the factor and the products are then added or subtracted. So for example, we have 3 times the quantity 6 plus 3 equals 3, the quantity 3 times 6 plus the quantity 3 times 3. So, ano ibig sabihin nun? So, we have here 6 and 3 are being grouped and then multiplied by the factor 3. So, to make it distributive property, 3 is distributed to the numbers being added inside the parentheses. So, we have from the right side of our equation, we're going to have, if we are going to distribute 3, then we have 3 times 6, and then, since addition yung nandun sa gitna ng nasa parentheses, so we're going to put plus. Then, 3 times 3. So, we have, if we are going to perform the operation, so dito muna tayo sa left side, so you have 6 plus 3 is 9. Times 3 is 27. So, if we're going to perform this, 3 times 6 is 18. Then, 3 times 3 is 9. So, 18 plus 9 is 27. So, the same. So, for example, let's have subtraction naman. So, 5 times the quantity 8 minus 2 equals, so distribute natin yung 5 sa mga numbers na nandito sa loob ng parentheses. So, 5 times 8. So, since subtraction yun, so you have minus 5 times 2. So, let's see kung pareho pa rin. So, 8 minus 2 is 6 times 5, 30. So, dito naman sa right, 5 times 8 is 40. 5 times 2 is 10. 40 minus 10 is 30. So, that is an example of distributive property. So, may mga numbers na madi-distribute. Next, we go to identity property. For identity property, we have two types. We have the additive identity and the multiplicative identity. So, what is additive identity? Additive identity states that the sum of any number and 0 is the given number itself. 0 is the additive identity. So, for example, we have 3 plus 0 equals 3, 5 plus 0 equals 5. So, mamaya, dun sa activity ninyo, pag nakakita kayo ng ganitong example or itsura, 3 plus 0 equals 3, 5 plus 0, any number added to 0 gives you the number itself. So, ang tawag doon is additive identity. While multiplicative identity naman, it states that the product of any number and 1 is the given number itself. 1 is the multiplicative identity. For example, we have 3 times 1 equals 3, 5 times 1 equals 5. So that is multiplicative identity. Next, we go to inverse property. In inverse property, we have two types. The inverse property in addition and inverse property in multiplication. In inverse property, in addition, it states that the sum of any number and its additive inverse is 0. The additive inverse of A is negative A. So for example, we have the additive inverse of 3 is negative 3. Therefore, 3 plus negative 3 is equal to 0. Another example, so the additive inverse of 5 is negative 5. Therefore, 5 plus negative 5 is equal to 0. Next, we go to inverse property in multiplication. In inverse property of multiplication, it states that the product of any number and its multiplicative inverse or its reciprocal is 1. So, going back sa grade 6 nung elementary kayo, reciprocal of A is 1 over A. The reciprocal of 4 is 1 over 4. And the reciprocal of negative 8 is negative 1 over 8. So, for example, so if we have A, reciprocal of A is 1 over A, that is equal to 1. So, A times 1 over A is equal to 1. 4, reciprocal niya is 1/4. So, 4 times 1/4 is equal to 1. Negative 8, reciprocal niya ay negative 1 over 8. So, that is equal to 1. So, that's all for the property on the operations of integers. So, let's go with your activity 1, 2, and 3. So, for activity 1, property identification, the direction is identify the property that justifies each statement. So, doon sa video, may mga examples ako doon. Tignan nyo doon kung anong property ang ginamit sa mga numbers dito. So, for example, I will answer number 1. You have 0 plus negative 3 is equal to 3. So, ano yung identity na yon? Wherein, when you add a number to 0, the result is the number itself. So, that is identity property. So, ganun lang po yung gagawin ninyo dito sa activity 1. For activity 2, we have rewriting expressions. So, direction, rewrite the following expression using the given property. So, for example, in number 1, so, sabi dito, distributive. So, gagamitan mo siya ng distributive property. So, paano mo gagawin yon? So, kung titignan mo ito, 12a minus 5a. So, i-distribute natin yung 12 at saka 5 doon sa a. So, ang magiging sagot natin dyan is a times 12 minus 5. So, ganun po. So, associative property. So, associative property, so, kung babalikan nyo yung video, i-rewind ninyo, so, gagawin nyo siyang associative property wherein yung grouping naman yon. May grouping. So, dito naman sa commutative property, the order. Okay? So, identity property, inverse. So, yung inverse, ano ba yung inverse? Kabaliktaran. So, 25 plus negative 25, ano yung sagot nyo dito? So, ganun lang po dito sa activity 2. Okay, so for activity 3, you have filling the blanks. Direction, fill in the blanks and determine what properties were used to solve the equation. So, from here, so lalagyan nyo yung blanks ng number para maging true yung statement natin. So, from here, 5 times the quantity blank plus 2 is equal to 0. We know that when we multiply a number by 0, the result will be 0. So, ano ngayon yung ilalagay natin dito para maging tama yung sagot natin? So, we have negative 2. We know that the inverse property, negative 2 plus 2 is equal to 0, then 5 times 0 is equal to 0. So, anong property ngayon ang ginamit natin? So, we have inverse property. Next, we do number 2. Hanggang number 2 lang tayo, baka masagutan na nating lahat. So, in number 2, negative 4 plus 4. So, kagaya nung dito sa number 1, inverse property. So, negative 4 plus 4 is 0. Anong ginamit natin? That is inverse property. So, that's it for activity 3. That's all for today. Thank you and see you on the next virtual instruction.